You see, the kinds of places we're led to when we follow Jesus are real places filled with real human situations, real emotions, and following him will expose you to people who are hurting and wondering and not loving life so much. And that's part of our calling. And Jesus is honest about that. But something Jesus is also honest about is how these people remain in God's favor. God is with them in their hardship. They are not forgotten. They are not despised. They are not discounted. They are not overlooked. No, they are not in the shadow of God's love. They are in the bright light of God's love. How do they know that? They know that when you're with them to give them that good news. We tend to think God shows up sort of independently of his people. Like God does his business and we just kind of wander around through life and, every once in a while we get to see God at work. No. What Jesus is saying is by following him, by setting our hearts on the will of God, we are living out God's presence and blessing. We incarnate the gospel. The gospel lives in us. And the gospel is heard by our presence and by our proclamation, the one we heard and learned from Jesus. What do we say at the very end of this worship service? We pray for God's presence with us as we take the gospel with us wherever we go. That is not, a clever turn of phrase. That is not a fond hope. That is reality. That is what God is doing in us and with us. That is what he proclaims in Jesus' very first sermon. It's what he proclaims when we stand up and speak the gospel where the gospel needs to be heard. And most often, the gospel lands with maximum force in times of suffering, hardship, where people don't expect to hear the gospel. It's important to remember that, because I believe that's where God sends us most often.